This congressional conversation is sponsored by AARP Nevada. Visit our website at aarp.org/NV. Your voice, your vote, our fight.
Thank you for joining us for the Review Journal AARP 2020 Congressional Interview Series. I'm your host, Steve Sebelius. We'd like to thank our sponsor, the AARP, and all of the candidates for the United States House of Representatives who've agreed to join us for this series. In this conversation, we'll be speaking with Dan Rodimer, who is the Republican nominee for Congress in the 3rd Congressional District. That's the seat that's currently held by Democrat Susie Lee. Mr. Rodimer, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Steve. I'm honored.
Unemployment during the coronavirus crisis in Nevada has reached levels that we have not seen in Nevada since the Great Depression. Older Americans especially have been kind of disproportionately affected by that. If you're elected, what ideas do you have to help those older Americans recover economically from the devastation that they've seen from the coronavirus?
Yeah, COVID has been obviously horrendous. It's been horrible. We need to recover. We need to recover as fast as possible. In the last recession, we were hit the hardest. Las Vegas was. It took us the longest to recoup, rebuild. And, this is a major issue with our economy. We need to bring back manufacturing. We need to bring back jobs. We need to work on our infrastructure. And we need to get back to where we were with, the lowest unemployment, for Latinos, Hispanics, African-American, Asian, and drive that GDP up. How are we going to do it? We're going to continue on the same path, but we need to bring jobs back. Right now, obviously they're talking about trying to with all the debt that we have, because unfortunately we're spending, for every dollar we spend, we borrow a dollar. I think it is $1.40. I believe, I think it's maybe a little bit more now, because after the last bill that they sent out to help folks out, the relief bill, we dumped a ton of money in, and unfortunately by doing that, obviously our debt's going to go higher and higher and higher. I put out a plan that's online for recovery. I believe from the very, very beginning, I'm not happy with what rules and regulations were implemented that shut us down for so long.
Yeah, and you're a businessman yourself. I mean, this has affected you as well as so many other business people in Southern Nevada, right? How has this affected your business?
We've been crushed. We're in the restaurant industry, and 60% of the restaurants are not going to reopen, the ones that shut down. We've been having a very, very hard time, and I talk to folks every day. They come to me, they ask me, what can we do differently? How do we reopen faster? What I did was I didn't lay off anybody. My opponent, she laid off close to 500 people. I didn't lay off anybody. I've gone out of my way to make sure that everybody had a job that worked for me. But I have folks calling me every day saying, Big Dan, what are we going to do? How are we going to fix this? I need a job. I need to go back to work. I can't go back to work because my kids are online learning right now. This is affecting everybody, from the parents to the children to the small business owners. We need to reopen in a safe, responsible way and get folks back to work.
Yeah. A lot of times, especially you're a young guy, so you don't have to worry about this right now, but, a lot of older Americans, 50, 55 years old, something like that happens to them. They get laid off through no fault of their own. The coronavirus happens and they get laid off. They have a real hard time finding a job. They've got a lot of experience, but employers, kind of look at them like, well, they've got that more experience, but they'll demand a higher wage as a result, and they're probably going to be more expensive when it comes to health insurance. What ideas do you have for those older Americans looking for work? How they can be more successful given the economic realities?
Yeah, right now it's across the board. It's not only for, for our older folks, younger folks, everybody's trying to get out there. And that's what we need to do is when we bring jobs back, we bring back manufacturing, it's going to bring jobs here. It's going to open it up. I've been a big advocate for job training to get folks out there. We have a lot of great technical schools, private technical schools. My opponent disagrees with me there. She doesn't like them, but these are great jobs. 18 months, you can become a plumber. 18 months, you get your electrician's license. 18 months, you get your HVAC license. There's a ton of things out there that you can still do. And then in 90 days, they have to get you a job with these private technical schools. We're going to need more and more and more and more of that. When we start doing that and we start bringing back manufacturing and we don't rely on China like we did for our medications, for pharmaceuticals, for ventilators, all these different things, we need to manufacture here in Nevada and bring them back, cut regulations, cut taxes. So that way we can get folks back to work, if they're older or younger.
That's a great segue. We'll pick up on that discussion a little bit more on healthcare in a second. But first, we're going to take our first break. We'll be back with Congressional District 3 candidate Dan Rodimer as our AARP 2020 Congressional Interview Series continues. Stay with us.
Today is full of opportunity to connect with others, grow as a community, and even improve lives. And AARP is in Nevada, helping to make it all happen, with resources to help you steer clear of fraud, helping to make our community accessible for all, and fun and educational events all over our state. Because AARP has real value for you, your family, and for everyone in Nevada. So let's take on today together. Learn more at facebook.com/AARPNV.
Welcome back to the AARP 2020 Congressional Interview Series. We're speaking with Dan Rodimer, who is the Republican nominee in Congressional District 3. We were talking about health care. Obviously, the Affordable Care Act has been the focus of a lot of healthcare debate over the last few years, whether or not that should continue or not. You're a Republican. I gather that you're not a big fan.
I'm not a fan of it. Just to start off with, in regards to healthcare, I just want to make sure everybody knows that I will never, ever, ever vote for legislation, that doesn't allow pre-existing conditions. I want to make sure that if you have a pre-existing condition, you get healthcare.
Mm-hmm. So there are some places where you would say, yeah, the government needs to mandate at least one thing, and that is protect pre-existing conditions.
Absolutely. Healthcare in regards to Obamacare, it was a mistake. Fact is we were lied to. We were promised that you were going to be able to keep your doctor. You're going to be able to keep your insurance, and your healthcare costs were going to be lower. And none of those happened. I think everybody out there has a different situation. I have 5 kids, Steve, and Sarah's going to probably have a baby maybe today, number 6.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
So, thank you. We're very, very excited to bring another daughter into this world.
Congratulations. That's great.
The insurance that I may need could be different from you.
Sure.
It could be different from when I was in college. And, we need to have a market where, one, I'll never take anybody off of their current insurance until we have a program in effect so everybody can, to have insurance. But, I believe that, in competition, the more competition we have out there, the lower prices come down. Mm-hmm. Right now, we don't have folks wanting to go and become doctors, go to school, because they know that their payments on their student loans are going to be so high that they're not going to be able to afford to do it.
Yeah. Do you think everybody should be covered by health insurance, whether it be by employer-based private plans, by Medicare, or by some other plan? Should every American have health insurance so as to have that confidence, knowing that if they get sick, they will be able to not only get health care, but also be able to avoid sometimes the huge bills that can drive people into bankruptcy if they don't have health insurance.
Yeah, I believe that, anybody who wants insurance should definitely get it. We have Medicaid, we have Medicare, but we need to have options. We need to have options for different people across the board. I don't believe in socialized medicine.
Mhm.
I think it would be extremely damaging if we had a socialized medicine across the board, especially for our seniors. I mean, our seniors, imagine having rational care. This would, if you have 5 people that come into the hospital and we have ration care, it's going to affect the seniors. The doctor's going to try to take care of the people that they know they're going to live, and it's going to negatively affect our seniors. It's a terrible plan. My opponent believes in it. I don't. Let's protect Medicare, make sure that that our seniors have great health care, make sure that we get the prescription drug prices down, that they have options if they want to get it from Canada. The president came in and signed an executive order last week. He's going to be giving out $200 prescription cards out to, I think, 33 million people, to help. These are things that, we need to make sure our seniors are protected. We need to make sure that, the vulnerable are, if they go to they need to see a doctor, they can go to the hospital and they can get that care. That's what, the federal government is to protect the most vulnerable.
Yeah. So when you say preserve Medicare, you're talking about continuing the program for those
Absolutely.
65 and older and for those who have disabilities. The way it's set up now, you don't want to expand that program to younger people or eventually to all people, as Senator Bernie Sanders has advocated for a long time.
I disagree with socialized medicine. Socialized medicine will negatively affect our seniors drastically.
And just to clarify our terms, you think expanding Medicare to everybody would be the equivalent of socialized medicine?
Correct.
Okay.
I think a socialized medicine program across the board would negatively affect a lot of folks across the board. And I believe that, having that open market and having competition will drive the prices down. It will allow you to see the doctor you want. I think with Medicare right now, I want to make sure our seniors are able to see the doctor that they want to see, that they feel comfortable with. And these are options that they should have. They deserve it.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. Well, we are going to take another break, but we'll be back in just a little bit with more questions and answers from Dan Rodimer as our interview series continues. Stay with us.
Today is full of opportunity to connect with others, grow as a community, and even improve lives. And AARP is in Nevada, helping to make it all happen, with resources to help you steer clear of fraud, helping to make our community accessible for all, and fun and educational events all over our state. Because AARP has real value for you, your family, and for everyone in Nevada. So let's take on today together. Learn more at facebook.com/AARPNV.
Welcome back to the RJAARP 2020 Congressional Interview Series. We're speaking with Dan Rodimer, who is the Republican nominee for Congress in the 3rd Congressional District, a former pro WWE wrestler. He's also a businessman, and we're talking, when we left, we were talking about healthcare. Let's talk about a little about Social Security. A lot of people are worried about the future of Social Security. In fact, the AARP took a poll and found that, I'm going to just check my notes here, 57% of the people were not confident in the future of the program. They didn't trust the government to keep its promises. They think money in the program is running out, and they believe politicians have taken money from the program in the past, which is true. I guess my first question, as a threshold question, is: do you think Social Security should continue in its present form, or do you support any form of full or partial privatization of the program where the money would be taken and invested in the stock market? What's your view on that?
Yeah, I do not believe in privatization. What I do promise, and I want to make sure everybody out there, all of our seniors understand, I will never vote on a bill that will cut our Social Security. Folks have worked very, very hard. I talked to my parents about it the other day. The issue is, and this is an issue on both sides, to be honest with you, Steve. they both parties blame each other. But the fact is, my opponent, she hasn't worked on it at all. She's been there for 2 years. She hasn't worked on it at all. They're pulling money from one side to the other. Right now it comes down to, how much debt we have. We have all this debt because we're spending, $6 trillion in the last two wars, $60 billion, a year in Afghanistan. That money needs to come back, and it needs to come into programs, like our Social Security. Folks have worked hard. So, when I get there, I'm going to look at it. I want to look at the Ways and Means, committee. I may not be on it, but these are issues that we need to come together, and we need to make sure we protect folks.
There have been, depending on who controls the House, there have been instances where relatively junior members of Congress from Nevada have been able to secure seats on impressive committees. So we'll see what happens with that. The most recent estimates, though, by the Social Security Trust Fund show that its funds are going to be exhausted in 2035. And some people say even that estimate is too optimistic because with the coronavirus pandemic, as we talked about earlier, a lot of people are out of work. They're not paying into the system. And so that might move that date up. What ideas do you have, if you were elected, to stabilize the funding for Social Security?
Well, it's going to come down to our economy. It's going to come down to where the money they're pushing out. Like I said earlier, we can't be bringing in $1 and borrowing $1.40 from China. We're upside down. We need to keep bringing back jobs. We need to keep rebuilding our economy. We need to start bringing in more and more and more money. So therefore we can cover these issues, in regards to where we can pull the money from. Well, I can't wait to get there, Steve, because I'm going to look at the big picture, figure out where this money is and why they're taking it from our Social Security. This is something, when I get there, I'm going to bust my butt to make sure that our seniors are covered.
What about right now? I mean, I'm sure you looked at it now. You probably have some ideas where you would get started doing that. The federal budget is a huge document. It's a thick book. Any ideas where you could or either take money or other ways to find to stabilize the system?
Yeah, our wars. Like I said, $6 trillion, Steve. We spent in the last two wars, $60 billion in Afghanistan. That money needs to come back, and it has to go into the programs that are going to support our seniors and support the folks here. I haven't seen the exact, I'm not on the Ways and Means. I'm not there right now. But like I said, my opponent hasn't done anything. At least when I get there, I can't wait to look at it and say, hey, look, this is where we're going to cut the fat, and this is where we're going to take care of the folks here. Yeah.
Would you say this is a top priority for you going to Washington?
Absolutely. This is a top issue. I mean, we got our seniors that have worked hard, paid into the system.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about some specific ideas about Social Security proposed by Democrats and Republicans, and we'll get Mr. Rodimer to react to that. So stay with us as our debate series continues.
Today is full of opportunity to connect with others, grow as a community, and even improve lives. And AARP is in Nevada, helping to make it all happen, with resources to help you steer clear of fraud, helping to make our community accessible for all, and fun and educational events all over our state. Because AARP has real value for you, your family, and for everyone in Nevada. So let's take on today together. Learn more at facebook.com/AARPNV.
Welcome back to the AARP 2020 Congressional Debate Series. We're speaking today with Mr. Dan Rodimer. He is running for Congress in the 3rd Congressional District. He's the Republican nominee. When we left off, we were talking about Social Security. Let's continue that discussion and talk about some specific ideas that people have proposed that would add longevity to the system and stave off the point at which Social Security could not pay full benefits. What about the idea of raising the Social Security withholding threshold? As you know now, you're only taxed on to a certain point, and you make beyond that, those wages are not taxed. Should that threshold be increased so that higher income people are paying more into Social Security?
No, I think that, Steve, the issue is it's not raising here, raising there. It's looking at where we're putting money right now, which other committees are dumping money, whether it be outside of our country or whether it be here. And we need to look at it, and it's if the Department of Defense, or if these other departments have all this money going out, all right, and we don't need to, then we need to look at it. We need to bring it back. This is an ongoing issue. It's ongoing issue. We're spending more than we're bringing in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're talking about reallocating money.
Yeah, we have to be fiscally responsible. We have to be fiscally responsible. And how do we do that? How do we bring more money back? It's rebuilding this economy to have that GDP that was on the way up. It was just going higher and higher and higher.
Yeah.
And the more we do that, the more we can protect our seniors.
So if somebody said, hey, why don't we increase the current withholding tax that people are paying into now, you would not be in favor of that, it sounds like?
When I get there, Steve, I'm not in Congress yet. And like I said, I have not seen, where our budget is and where they're spending. But I do know that we are spending way too much money on wars and dumping money outside that should be here, should be on with Social Security. It should be rebuilding our infrastructure. It should be promoting more jobs. It should be promoting, things that we need here. Until I get there, I'm not going to be able to actually see our numbers and Ways and Means. But hey, the problem we have right now, Steve, is we don't have a voice. The people here do not have a voice. My opponent finally decided to try to start being bipartisan. And what did she do? She got 50 votes last week. 50, right? She's not a voice. Unfortunately, we don't have a voice here. We don't have an AOC on the left or a Dan Crenshaw on the right that if they were working on a bipartisan deal, you know what? They would have got a lot more votes. You know why? Because they would go on CNN and MSNBC and Fox and they'd fight for the people. But we don't have that. So,
speaking of
that's what I'm going to do when I get there.
Speaking of bipartisanship, there's a group called the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. It has Republicans and Democrats on it. They are basically saying that according to the trustees, the solvency date of Social Security could be extended out with smaller changes now as opposed to larger changes later. So I just asked you about, for example, the withholding tax. They said a 3.1 percentage point increase in that withholding tax now would extend that date, whereas if we waited until 2035 when those benefits could not be paid in full, it would take 4.1%. Ditto for other measures. So let me ask you this. I think you said from the very beginning that you would not support reducing benefits paid in Social Security. That's something you would not support.
Correct.
Okay. How about raising the retirement age to get full benefits? Right now, you have to reach a certain age before you can get the full benefits. If you wait till that age, or even after, you get a pretty healthy check. If you retire early, you get less. Should we raise that age?
Well, when we get there, when I get to Washington, D.C., I want to look at all the options. The fact that people have worked so hard, my parents, my grandparents, my constituents, or soon to be all the constituents here in Nevada, they busted their butts to get there. I want to look at the entire plan and make a decision when I get there. But either way, I'm going to make sure that we get the money to fund it.
How about
by not raising taxes?
Yeah.
I think it's
so that's off the table as far as you're concerned. Raising taxes even to add sustainability to Social Security, that's off the table.
I think that there's going to be different options when we get there, where we can be more fiscally responsible and move money. from a number of other places that are just taking in way too much. You know, you take,
On that tax question,
take 1
you
cent
put
from each
that
one
off
of
the
these.
table?
If we take 1 penny, right, from the Department of Defense for every dollar across the board, you know, we would have no problem funding it.
So that sounds like that's your priorities, reallocation. Sounds like tax increases are off the board. That's not something you would support, even to increase Social Security stability.
I mean, I would look at everything, but I am not a fan of raising taxes.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. All right, we're going to take another break. We'll be right back with more questions and answers on Social Security and other issues. We'll get to Medicaid coming up with Dan Rodimer as our debate series continues, or as our interview series rather continues. Stay with us.
Today is full of opportunity to connect with others, grow as a community, and even improve lives. And AARP is in Nevada, helping to make it all happen, with resources to help you steer clear of fraud, helping to make our community accessible for all, and fun and educational events all over our state. Because AARP has real value for you, your family, and for everyone in Nevada. So let's take on today together. Learn more at facebook.com/AARPNV.
Welcome back to the RJ AARP 2020 Congressional Interview Series. We're speaking with Dan Rodimer, who's running in the 3rd Congressional District as the Republican nominee. We were talking about Social Security just a bit ago. One other idea that I wanted to run by you. People have said that there should be a means test. So take, for example, let's say tomorrow I went down to the Green Valley Ranch and I played the megabucks and I won the megabucks. And all of a sudden my income goes up and I'm now a millionaire. When I retire, I won't need the $2,500 in Social Security benefits. So somebody else might need it. Should there be a means test to say, look, if you struck it rich because you were an entrepreneur, because you got lucky, whatever reason, and you don't need that money, let's say those benefits should go to someone else. That would sustain the system in the long term. It seems like it would be a good idea to keep that system going. What do you think of that?
Hey, there's a lot of folks out there that have busted their butts for many, many years. They've paid taxes, they paid into it. That's their money.
Right, they've earned it. That's the argument against it, right? They've earned it. So they
if it was my parents, even if they did well, I mean, they busted their butt for that money. They deserve it.
Mm-hmm. Even if they don't need it.
Well, what's the need though, Steve? You know,
well,
they worked hard. They paid taxes.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. No one's denying that they've earned that money. Absolutely, they paid into the system. They absolutely deserve to get it out. But I'm thinking again, using myself as an example. If I was so wealthy that the money would not make a difference to me, I would probably want it to go back into the system to help people who are not as fortunate for whatever reason. Maybe they didn't work as hard. Maybe
you're great. I mean, and I agree with you, Steve. And if you want to do that personally, then absolutely don't take it.
Mm-hmm. So if you get, let's just play out a little scenario here. Let's say you get elected, Donald Trump gets reelected. Donald Trump comes up with a plan that is going to reduce those benefits. He says, listen, we got to do it to keep the system in place. We got to reduce benefits. You're going to tell the president what? When he comes to you and he says, hey, I campaigned for you. I need you. I endorse you. You got to vote with me on this. I know what you said on the campaign trail. You'd never cut it, but what are you going to do? What are you going to tell?
I'm going to say thank you very much, Mr. President, for helping me. I appreciate it. But the fact is I have to do what's best for Nevada.
Interesting. That might be an uncomfortable conversation for you.
It might be. But I'm kind of I think, Steve, everybody knows that I'm not your average candidate. And I'm not going to be your average congressman either.
That's true enough.
I think we need a little bit more backbone in Congress.
True enough. Well, that will be, and I'd love to be in on that conversation, by the way, if that happens. So let's switch subjects and start talking a little bit about the other big program that seniors rely on. It's the Medicare program, seniors 65 and over. We've already discussed earlier in our conversation that you don't want that applied to other people, like Bernie Sanders decided, he wants that. A lot of other candidates, especially on the Democratic side, and they were running for president. That was a radical idea in 2016 when he said it. All of a sudden in 2020, you had a lot more Democrats coming out for that. We've already established that you're not in favor of that. But even keeping the program the way it is, just for 65-year-old and older and people with disabilities, the trustees of the Medicare system estimate that in just 6 years, it may not be able to pay full benefits. Now, an AARP poll found that 93%, an overwhelming majority of older voters, want candidates to discuss what they will do to prevent cuts in the Medicare program. So here's your opportunity. What do you tell that 93%? How are you going to avoid those cuts in the Medicare system?
We keep doing what we're doing. I mean, after COVID, I want to make sure that, we reduce prescription prices for folks. I want to make sure that, our seniors are covered across the board. What I don't want to see is folks going on to a socialized medicine across the board, where, like I said, ration care. We need to expand telehealth. We need to give more options for the seniors that are out there, to make sure that, if they need to see somebody right away, they can see somebody, whether it be telehealth, if they need to get prescription prices. And I believe in transparency for our prescription prices. I believe that, CVS and Walgreens and all the other prescription companies out there, if they are completely transparent, then you know what? They got to compete with each other to lower those prices.
Great transition. I will come back and we'll pick up on that very point when we come back after this next break. So stay with us as we continue with our AARP 2020 Congressional Interview Series.
Today is full of opportunity to connect with others, grow as a community, and even improve lives. And AARP is in Nevada, helping to make it all happen, with resources to help you steer clear of fraud, helping to make our community accessible for all, and fun and educational events all over our state, because AARP has real value for you, your family, and for everyone in Nevada. So let's take on today together. Learn more at facebook.com/AARPNV.
Welcome back to the AARP 2020 Congressional Interview Series. We're speaking with Dan Rodimer, who is the Republican nominee in the 3rd Congressional District. And when we left off, Mr. Rodimer, you said, and you've said this on your website, that transparency in pricing can help bring down costs. People can see how prices are arrived at. There was a bill in the Nevada legislature on this very same subject, a bipartisan bill brought by Democratic Senator Ivana Cancela. It was ultimately supported by Republicans, signed by Republican Governor Brian Sandoval. Would you support a process like that? Her bill applied specifically to drugs to treat diabetes, insulin, and then asthma drugs, but she wants to expand it to all drugs. Do you support that kind of approach?
I mean, I'd look into it. I haven't read her bill, but, I believe in transparency. I believe that, we should have options to be able to get medicine from other countries. The president came in with an executive order the other day, pushing for these things, pushing for, obviously, like I said, telemedicine. We want to make sure that we don't have surprise billing. That's going to be another issue. If we don't have surprise billing, people are going to have that option. It's going to drive down pricing. But, unfortunately, right now, the cost of medicine, it's just too high for the patients.
Some people say that one of the ways we can fix that is if we decided to allow Medicare, like the VA, to negotiate with drug makers for the price of drugs. In other words, if Medicare could use its buying power because of all the patients that are in the Medicare program and leverage that buying power, they could get a much better deal from pharmaceutical companies without the need to re-import drugs from other countries. They could get them right here. Do you support something like that?
Or we just lower the pricing of medications.
Well, how do we do that though?
We don't even have to do that. I mean, if we have transparency across the board and everybody knows what the cost is, people.
But you're not talking about the government saying, okay, this price of this drug is now going to be this. You're not talking about government prices.
I'm talking about competition. If you go out there and you say, hey, look, you can get your medications from Canada. Okay, you can have that option. All of a sudden, people are going to be competing to get lower and lower prices, and it will come down. It definitely will. I mean, you just have to have transparency across the board. This is what they're buying it for. Okay, then other companies are going to, or other pharmacies are going to compete with each other. Yeah.
That might work in terms of drugs that are widely available when you have multiple drugs to treat as a condition. But there's a lot of these new drugs, you see them advertised on television, that are brand new. They've been manufactured and developed by a single pharmaceutical company. Other companies don't have the rights to that particular drug. And so they can set those prices pretty high, and talk about surprise billing. Sometimes when you see how much some of those drugs cost, $700, $800 for a 30-day supply, you might develop other medical conditions just on seeing the bill. The negotiating for lower prices, you don't think Medicare should be able to do that?
No, I would love to be able to drive down the prices. And I would look into it. Absolutely. I have no problem looking into it, looking at all the different options we can do. Steve, at the end of the day, it's what's best for our seniors here is what I'm going to push for. And if that's what the seniors want, then we'll look into it.
Yeah, but as we've discussed before, I'm guessing you would say tax increases to sustain the Medicare program, that's not your first choice. That's not something you would advocate.
Like I said, we have a ton of money right now. I'm going to make sure that money comes over from all these other places, that we're pushing. Like I said, with wars and everything else, bring it back.
So other
you have to have a voice, though, Steve. There's no voice out there that's doing it. We need somebody who will stand up for our seniors, and right now we don't have that. I mean, Susie Lee has not worked at all on Social Security. She hasn't worked on Medicare. What she has worked on is socialized medicine, but like I said earlier, we don't want that for our seniors because, with socialized medicine, we're going to have an issue where we have, you're going to have rationalized care, and then it's going to negatively affect our seniors more than anything. So, Susie keeps pushing this, this whole socialized medicine. The most vulnerable people are going to be affected, which will be our seniors.
Let's when we come back, we'll talk about more places where you might find money to sustain Social Security, Medicare programs going forward. But let's take a break right now, and we'll be back as the RJ 2020 Congressional Interview Series continues.
Today is full of opportunity to connect with others, grow as a community, and even improve lives. And AARP is in Nevada, helping to make it all happen, with resources to help you steer clear of fraud, helping to make our community accessible for all, and fun and educational events all over our state. Because AARP has real value for you, your family, and for everyone in Nevada. So let's take on today together. Learn more at facebook.com/AARPNV.
Welcome back to the RJ AARP 2020 Congressional Interview Series. We are talking today with Dan Rodimer, who is running in the 3rd Congressional District as the Republican nominee. Mr. Rodimer, you said before we went to break that there are places we can find money. One area you mentioned was foreign wars, bringing troops home from places like Afghanistan to the United States, using that money that we save from that to sustain programs that we've been talking about, Social Security, Medicare, and things of that nature. Where else do you think?
Our economy, Steve, our economy.
You're talking about economic growth.
We keep rebuilding
producing
it.
More money.
We keep, and we borrow less. I mean, obviously our economy's we're going to bring more money in.
Mm-hmm.
Right now with COVID, and we've lost all these jobs. We need more jobs. We got to bring it back. We need to rebuild it. I am for, less regulations. Being a small business owner myself, I understand it. I've seen it across the board where, these regulations that I'm reading, obviously, I went to law school, and then being a small business owner, I try to look at different ways we can cut these regulations so that we can bring in more businesses, and we can bring in more jobs, and we can bring in job training, for our veterans across the board. We were on track before, and that's how we're going to continue to do it now.
Do you think economic growth could get to a level where it could solve all of these problems? I mean, what percentage of economic growth do you think would be necessary to make sure that that these programs we've been talking about are sustained for the long term?
Well, not only being economic growth, but also being fiscally responsible. Mm-hmm. And we're not right now. The issue is looking at all of these different areas that we could bring them in. Obviously, like I said earlier, I'm not on the ways and means, but we can't be spending money and just pushing it out to other countries when we could be bringing it in, and making more money. How are we going to do it here? Obviously, like I said earlier, COVID has crushed us. It's crushed us. We were not prepared for it. We need to make our medicines here. We need to stockpile our medicines here. We need to be prepared because other countries that don't like us, they know what our vulnerability is now. So we need to be more prepared.
You talked about on your website about making medicine here in America as opposed to importing it from overseas, and that's an area of vulnerability. I imagine the reason that they did that, and I'm not a businessman as you are, but I imagine the reason they did that was it was cheaper to make it overseas. How do we get them to bring it back here when they left in the first place because it was cheaper to do it over there?
We got to keep doing what we're doing. More opportunity zones, more tax incentives to be able to come over here, reopen. Look at Tesla, they came in. If we have right now, our raw goods, they're all being manufactured over there. Bring them back here. How do we bring them back? Obviously we already have tariffs in place. We've deregulated a ton, and we need to keep doing that. The more we do that, the more jobs are going to come back, and we've seen it. That's why our GDP went through the roof. That's why folks went back to work, and then we had, the lowest unemployment. Yeah. I'm afraid of, the current, here in Nevada, at least, they want to keep pushing it out. Hey, let's just keep sending it to China. Let's keep doing that. Well, it's not going to work. And that's what I'm going to bust my butt to do, Steve, when I get there.
Do you think, and we've only got about 30 seconds left before I have to take our next break, but do you think that we should impose a tariff on companies that have offshored their goods before they can come back in and give Made in America drugs or other goods a break?
I believe in fair trade.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in fair trade. I think that's how it should be. I think right now, it costs us a lot more. It's not fair to the U.S. And we need to protect, the folks here, and we need to be able to bring back these manufacturing jobs here. How do we do it? Well, if we have fair trade, I have no problem with that. But I want jobs here, don't you, Steve?
Absolutely. The more, the better. Absolutely. Well, we'll come back in our next segment and talk a few more issues with Dan Rodimer as our AARP 2020 interview series continues. Stay with us.
Today is full of opportunity. to connect with others, grow as a community, and even improve lives. And AARP is in Nevada, helping to make it all happen, with resources to help you steer clear of fraud, helping to make our community accessible for all, and fun and educational events all over our state. Because AARP has real value for you, your family, and for everyone in Nevada. So let's take on today together. Learn more at facebook.com/AARPNV.
Welcome back once again to the RJ AARP 2020 Congressional Candidate Interview Series. We're speaking with Dan Rodimer. He is a candidate in Congressional District 3, the Republican nominee. Mr. Rodimer, as you know, the Medicare program, there are certain things that aren't covered unless you buy supplemental insurance. One of those things is dental care. Do you think Medicare ought to cover dental care for seniors?
I believe it's part of, I believe that you should have it. It's extremely, extremely expensive. It is, as you get older, heck, as I get older, my teeth are getting worse and worse, and, I think that if there's a way that we can expand it, absolutely. This is an issue that I've heard from a number of people as well. So when we get there, if there's a way that we can expand it, I'll be on the forefront. I'll be right on that soapbox fighting for it.
Yeah. So you've heard about this on the campaign trail. People have asked you about it.
I have heard.
Yeah, because it is expensive.
People brought it up. We haven't really gone into detail on it, and I haven't heard all the different options of how to do it. But it's definitely something that I would love to be able to add to Medicare.
Mm-hmm. There's other things, eye exams for prescription glasses, routine foot care, which is important for people who suffer from diabetes, fittings for hearing aids, things that you would think would be covered, right? As you get older, you need hearing aids and you need eyeglasses, and they're to find out they're not covered. I bet a lot of people initially are surprised when they look at their booklet and say, "Whoa, that's not covered."
Yeah, my grandpa, he has diabetes, and he has to get special shoes. And he worked for years and years and years, and he has separate insurance. But no, I think if folks need it, they should be able to get it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, Mr. Rodimer, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us on these issues and talk with us about your ideas for what's going to come if you are elected to Congress. You're our first candidate who we've scheduled this with, so I really appreciate you taking the time to do it. So thank you again for being available.
Thank you, Steve.
Absolutely.
Have a great day. God bless Nevada. God bless America.
Absolutely. Well, that's all the time we have for our congressional interview series today. I'd like to thank my guest, Mr. Dan Rodimer, who is the Republican nominee in the 3rd Congressional District. And thank you also to the AARP for their sponsorship of this debate series. You can stay up to date on all the 2020 political news on our website at www.reviewjournal.com. Also check out our mobile app. Until next time, for the Las Vegas Review Journal, I'm Steve Sebelius.